Hey YouTube, how's everyone feeling? Today's video I'm going to talk about my experience traveling the world for 1 year with no plan. Now, a lot of people when they think travel, they think the goods, it's all magical, nothing's going to happen, it's going to be the time of my life, it's going to cost me this amount of money, etc. But I'm here to tell you, often, more times than not, it does not go as planned. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. So about 4 years ago, right around the pandemic time, I decided to make a decision like, hey, I think I'm just going to quit my job and I'm just going to travel abroad for a year and see what happens, right? I thought I had enough money. I ended up not having enough money, but everything went as good as it could have went, right? I had a lot of experience. I went to a lot of countries and there was a lot of planning at the last minute. So I want to start off my journey first, right? I worked a regular job. I was making decent money, like $55K a year, which is pretty good for Vegas, right? So I'm like, I'm able to pay my bills, maybe save a little bit every month, etc. But around this time, this is when a lot of things were happening because of the pandemic, right? So I'm forced to be inside all day. I couldn't go to the gym because my gym was closed. You can't go to a lot of restaurants, right? I don't drink, so I'm not about to go to any bars or clubs or anything like that. So it was like very restricted, right? So 2020, by the way, I'm sorry, my time frame was a little bit off. So it was about 5 years ago then. So it's about 2020, 2021, somewhere around there, 4 or 5 years ago. But everything was closed. So I'm working from home doing my little job, making $55K per year. But I'm like, I feel like I was losing my mind. Like I didn't know what I was gonna do next. I felt like I was almost ready to start talking to myself because it's like, they limit. You couldn't even go to the Las Vegas Strip. That's how strict it was at one point. The Las Vegas Boulevard was blocked off. If you go there, you might get arrested. So I'm like, I can't go anywhere. All these places are closed. We're not seeing human beings. Human beings are meant to be social, right? No matter how isolated or introverted you are as a person, you are meant to see people. You're meant to talk to people, touch people, feel people, all that type of stuff. So for me personally, I kind of felt like I was like, I'm gonna see it in my mind and kind of feel like I'm losing myself, right? So when I'm working from home, to somewhat keep my sanity, what I'm doing is I have my work set up, like a work laptop, but then I have a desk or a TV, and the TV is playing YouTube. So I'm seeing like travel videos about this country, etc. To the point where I was like, I just gotta go. The tickets at an all-time low. I remember looking at Japan tickets for like $350 round trip. You would never see anything like that in your lifetime probably, right? And I just kept looking at the tickets every day, watching YouTube every day. I was like, nah, I gotta go. So eventually I saved up a little money, sold my car, and I quit my job. I low-key wish I would have started making YouTube videos around this time because it would have been exciting to see all this. But I'm just gonna walk y'all through it and I'm gonna talk about some lessons I learned. So first, any place can feel like home. The first place I went to, because it was within the Western Hemisphere, I was like, okay, it's not too much of a flight time, was Brazil. Rio de Janeiro, to be specific. I told my family, like, hey, I'm going to Rio. They're like, what? Why are you going to Rio? I'm like, hey, I just want to explore, and then also, this might lead to some economic opportunities, right? At the time, I had a TEFL certificate. I had just got it. I was just working on it. So one of the things I was like, okay, as a backup plan, I can teach English. So I went to Brazil, seeing the vibe. I'm like, okay, I might like it out here. And I ended up only being there for like 10 days because I thought I was going to stay there a couple months longer, but it ended up being the opposite. I thought I was going to go to Brazil for a couple months, then hit up Turkey. But it ended up being the opposite. So I stayed in Brazil 10 days and went to Turkey for like 4 months or something like that. So I started off in Brazil. And I was somewhat disappointed because I thought with the multicultural influence, the food was going to be phenomenal. But for whatever reason, every place I went in Brazil to eat for the food was okay at best. Just okay. Keep in mind, I was only in Rio de Janeiro, and I imagine when you go to different regions, there's different influences. But I went to like the places near the beach, the places more inland, some local recommended places, some tourist places. This cuisine, and it was all just okay. I'm like, where's the quality at? Wasn't really doing it for me. But I learned that, hey, I have a new appreciation for what I have back home, right? because when I first got there, I was supposed to stay in this one Airbnb in Ipanema, which is like a middle class area. Things didn't go well. I had to make a change at the last minute. So I ended up being Copacabana, which is not a bad area, but it's not as economically developed as Ipanema. So I remember waking up with like bug bites on me, all type of stuff. I'm like, man, what's going on? So it makes me appreciate what I got going on back home more. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm more appreciative of what I got going on. Makes me happier that. And I also learned that any place can be home for you, because mentally, when I landed in Brazil, it just felt amazing. Like, I'm like, yo, I told myself, like, I was doing all type of studying, even to the point where I know once you get to the airport, they're gonna try to get you to go on their ride, even though they're not Uber related. So they're literally go inside the airport, look for tourists. Hey, come with me, come with me, come with me. And some of them will get mad if you tell them no. But thankfully, I did enough research to know that this was gonna happen. So I did my little research and I was able to get the grab, all that type of stuff. But it felt like home because I kind of felt like I was in America, right? It has a certain energy to it, but also I did research. So research is key. Anywhere can feel like home. But those are the two things I would give to you once it comes to that. Also, when it comes to research, one thing I missed is, and I'm sorry to ruin this for some people, there are certain parts of Brazil that they do not flush toilet paper. So someone could do a number two, and instead of flushing it, what they do is they just throw it in the trash. And the reason why I've been told, at least this is what I've been told while I was there, is there's certain areas that doesn't have good plumbing. So because the plumbing's not good, what they do is like, okay, just put it in the trash can. So keep that in mind when you go there. You want to stay maybe in like Barra de Tijuca or something like that, because a lot of places don't flush. But that takes me to the next place. So I was going to stay in Brazil for a couple months. I ended up shortening the trip. I was like, yo, I can't do this. I was having digestive issues too, because I think the quality of the food. So after like 10 days, and that's not to say anything bad about them, because maybe I just got unlucky in all 30 places I went to was like that. But I do want to go to northern Brazil, because I've been told that there's a big African influence in in El Salvador. And you know, the food tastes better from what I've been told. But anyways, I did that. Boom, 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 boom. Left after 10 days. I was like, where do I go next? Where do I go next? I have to go somewhere that's cheap. So it's either Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe, or South America. I'm like, well, I just did Brazil, so I'm kind of, you know, I want something fresh. You know, I do want to see other areas of South America, but not right now. So fast forward, I ended up choosing Eastern Europe. Ended up choosing Turkey, because I'm like, wait a second. I remember one time I was on my way to Spain and we stopped in Turkey. I made a post on social media talking about I'm in the airport for 11 hours, I don't know what to do. Someone replied to my post and said, hey, you know, Turkey gives you free lodging if you take Turkish Airlines. I took Turkish Airlines, I got free lodging. So ever since then I was like, okay, maybe Turkey's not as scary as I thought. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I was scared the first time I went to Turkey. They was like, yo, you get a free hotel. I'm like, I don't know if I want to leave the airport. I'm low-key kind of scared. But I did a lot of research, and then I left that day, and it made me feel more comfortable. So I'm like, okay, I enjoyed it in that little one day I was there. Let me go back. So I went back. I'm like, okay, I'll just do a quick little, 2 to 4 weeks, something like that. I kept extending it. 2 weeks ended up turning into 4 months, because it was just amazing. Life-changing food. Another important thing I learned in this year of traveling, the older the culture, typically, this is what someone has told me, and I'm like, that's a good phrase. The older their culture, typically the better the food. Think about a lot of those countries that are like in the Middle East or in Africa, it has good food, right? But if you got somewhere like North America, North America is kind of a young country when you compare it to some of these other countries or other civilizations, right? So it's like our food hasn't been tested through time. And we get a little bit cheaper every generation, trying to remix stuff, put ingredients in it that doesn't need to be in it. You go somewhere like Syria, Turkey, Iraq, etc. Those cultures have been there for so long. Even though the country may have been renamed, the culture has been there so long and the cuisine has been there so long, it's perfected generation after generation. So when you eat it, you're going to taste that love. You're going to taste, this is grandma's. This is great grandma's recipe. This is our uncle's, cousin's, twice removed super grand uncle's favorite way to cook tomato. It's been perfected over time. So I would say definitely check out Turkey. It has life-changing food, very amazing, right? The older the culture, typically the better the cuisine. Another lesson I gathered from here: do not be afraid of what the media tells you, or don't be afraid of the unknown. First time I went to Turkey prior to this 4 months, when I went for the one day, I was scared. When I got there, I'm like, why was I scared this whole time? I'm over here by myself most of the time for the 4 months, and I never felt any moments of danger, right? Even when I went to the areas that they said, hey, you shouldn't go to this area, Istanbul, or hey, this area is not as safe as this area. I left the tourist areas, went like an hour out, all this type of stuff. Amazing. Speaking of amazing and not being scared, you're not going to be the only person from your country, unless you come from a very small country. I don't know, maybe Monaco or something. You're not going to be the only person from your country. I met other Americans while I was there, and we still talk to this day, right? So every country I go to, if I'm there long enough, Brazil wasn't the same, because maybe I was only there 10 days, but every country I go to, if I'm there long enough, I will meet other Americans, right? It's just only a matter of time. Even in countries that you may not think, you meet other Americans. I met people from the same city. I'm like, how does this happen? We all the way across in Asia, and I meet somebody from the same city as me. This is crazy, right? So don't be scared in that sense. But after I did that, the next place I went to was none other than Asia, right? So I went to Asia. I went to, because I was doing a teaching. At that point, I finished my teaching abroad, or my teaching education certificate, and I'm like, yo, my money's getting low. I need to figure out something. So I lived in Korea for 4 months. I originally signed a 1-year contract, but I ended up leaving after 4 months because I got sick. But even in those 4 months, I will say it's good to be outside of your comfort zone. And just because something feels uncomfortable doesn't mean it's bad for you. So within the first week or two of me arriving in South Korea, I thought about leaving. I thought about, did I make a mistake? Should I quit? What am I doing? How am I going to explain this to my friends and my family members? Am I going to get in trouble if I just quit my job because I just signed a contract? A lot of things were going through my mind, but ultimately I did decide to make the decision to leave. But I will also say, in those 2 weeks of first arriving, when my mind was making that decision, I will say that I programmed myself. So at first I'm like, okay, I'm a super outsider here because South Korea is I believe it's pronounced homogenous country, right? Because over 95% of the people are Korean, right? And it's not going to be that. They're not known for being the most inclusive, which I respect it. You know, it keeps their culture alive, so I actually like it. Them in Japan, right? So I'm like, yo, how am I going to meet people? I'm this permanent outsider. Even if I learn the language, it still won't be the same because I see other Americans learning the language and it's still not quite there. But I just programmed myself. I was like, yo, I use this year to level myself up. So I'm like, yo, I'm going to do a lot of self-help stuff. I'm going to get back in the gym, lift weights. I'm going to make connections. I'm going to get on social media. I'm going to do all this. So it's just a matter of mental programming, right? Even though it felt uncomfortable, I'm glad it happened, and I could have easily did a year if I wanted to. So I'm here to tell you that it's a mind over matter thing, right? These are just a few little lessons I learned. If y'all want to know more about this, make sure you hit me up on IG, TikTok, or just leave a comment down below. I do use the same username on IG, TikTok, and YouTube, so you can easily reach me like that. Peace.